Malik Johnson was just 17 years old, but already carried the weight of a man twice his age after losing his father to a sudden heart attack. When he was 12, he became the man of the house. His mother worked two jobs to keep them afloat, spending her days caring for elderly patients at the nursing home, and her nights cleaning office buildings for people who didn't even know her name. Malik had been saving for 8 long months every extra dollar from mopping floors at the community center. Every tip from helping set up events, all so he could surprise her with something special, not just flowers or a card, but something real, something that would tell her she was more than her struggles. He had seen it in the window of Wilson's Fine Goods, a small luxury boutique in the wealthy part of town, a silver bracelet that caught the light in a way that made it look like it belonged on someone important, along with a perfume bottle she once lingered over when they walked past together. Tonight he finally had enough cash. He stepped off the bus, clutching an envelope of hard-earned bills, and walked the last few blocks, his heart beating faster with each step. When he opened the glass door, a soft chime announced his arrival, and the scent of expensive perfume wrapped around him. Behind the counter stood Janet, the store owner, tall, with a neat blonde bun, pearl earrings, and a stare that felt like ice. She looked him up and down, her eyes catching on his worn sneakers and faded hoodie, the corners of her lips tightened. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice dripping with suspicion. Malik smiled politely. "Yes, ma'am. I'm here to buy the bracelet in the window, and maybe a bottle of that perfume. It's for my mom's birthday." Janet didn't move from behind the counter. Instead, she crossed her arms and tilted her head. "This isn't that kind of store." Malik blinked, confused. "What do you mean it's not that kind of store? You sell bracelets and perfume, don't you?" Her tone sharpened. "I mean, this is a high-end establishment. We don't usually get customers like you." Malik's stomach tightened, but he kept his voice calm. "I have money, ma'am," he said, starting to take the envelope from his jacket. Janet's eyes narrowed, and she smirked. "Where do you get that kind of cash?" she asked, like she had already decided the answer. "I work at the community center. I've been saving for months," he replied. Her smirk widened. "Well, I'm afraid we don't accept cash from just anywhere. Maybe you'd be more comfortable shopping somewhere more affordable." She gestured toward the door, as if dismissing him like a child. Malik's face burned. "I just want to buy the bracelet and perfume. That's it." Janet's voice turned sharp. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave now, before this becomes a problem." Malik's heart pounded. He had done nothing wrong, and yet here he was being treated like a criminal. He took a step toward the display case, trying to keep his voice steady. "Ma'am, I just want to see the price tag." Janet's hand shot to the phone behind the counter. "I'm calling security," she said coldly. Malik froze. Every instinct told him to walk away, but something inside refused to let this moment define him. He was about to speak when the door opened again, and a deep, authoritative voice rang out. "Janet, what is going on here?" Both turned toward the entrance, and in stepped a tall man in a tailored suit. His presence alone seemed to fill the room. Janet's tone flipped instantly. "Oh, Mayor Daniels, I was just handling a situation." The mayor's eyes went from her to Malik, then back again. "What kind of situation?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Janet hesitated, glancing at Malik like she was deciding how much to lie. "Well, he doesn't look like our usual clientele, and I wasn't sure if—" But before she could finish, the mayor raised a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. His gaze locked on Malik's son. "What's your name?" "Malik Johnson, sir," he replied quietly. The mayor nodded slowly, then looked back at Janet. "I've known Malik's mother for years. She is one of the hardest working women in this city." His voice dropped lower and sharper. "And if I hear for one second that you treat him with anything less than the respect he deserves, there will be consequences." Malik felt a surge of relief, but also something else, a shift in the air. Janet's posture stiffened, her face paling. Mayor Daniels stepped further into the store and turned to Malik. "Go ahead, son. Get whatever you came for. It's on me tonight." Malik's eyes widened. "Sir, I can pay for it myself." The mayor smiled. "You've already paid for it with your hard work." But as Malik stepped toward the bracelet, Janet's voice cracked in again. "But sir—" The mayor's eyes cut back to her like a blade, and she fell silent. Malik picked up the bracelet, his hands trembling. But inside, he could feel that something was changing, and he didn't yet know just how much. This moment was about to flip his entire world, because what neither of them realized was that someone outside had been recording the whole thing, and in less than 24 hours, that video would set the entire town on fire. Malik walked to the counter with the bracelet in one hand and the perfume in the other, feeling the mayor's presence like a shield behind him. Janet rang up the items, her movement stiff and mechanical, as if every beep of the register was a personal insult. The mayor stood tall, arms folded, his eyes never leaving her face. When she finally slid the bag across the counter, she avoided looking at Malik altogether. "Have a nice day," she said. Through clenched teeth, Malik thanked the mayor, quietly unsure what to say. This was a man of power, someone who could have brushed him off, but instead chose to stand up for him. They stepped outside into the late afternoon. Son, the mayor clapped him on the shoulder. Son, remember, this people will try to tell you what you do, and don't belong. You decide that for yourself. Malik nodded, holding the bag like it was made of gold. Thank you, sir. I don't know how. The mayor cut him off. Just keep doing what you're doing and tell your mother I said hello. They parted ways. Malik's bus ride home felt different, like the world had tilted slightly in his favor for once. But the moment he walked into the small apartment he shared with his mom, he knew something was wrong. She was sitting at the kitchen table, her face pale, her hands clasped together in front of her. Malik, what happened today? She asked, her voice tight. Malik froze. What do you mean? She hesitated, before sliding her phone across the table. It was open to a video already playing. It was him in the store, standing at the counter, Janet glaring at him. The mayor walking in the confrontation, playing out in crystal clear audio. The clip ended with Malik walking out the door. The caption read, racism at Wilson's Fine Goods. Exposed. The view count was already over 200,000. Malik's eyes widened. Where did this come from? His mom shook her head. I don't know, but it's everywhere. The comments are split. Some people are supporting you, but others... She trailed off the sound of her phone buzzing on the table, over and over like a swarm of bees. Malik felt his chest tighten. This is going to get worse, isn't she? Didn't answer, just looked at him with that worried mother stare that saw the danger before he did. Malik didn't sleep. That night, the buzz of his own phone kept him awake. Strangers messaging him, news outlets asking for interviews, and a handful of ugly threats from anonymous accounts. By morning, the video had crossed 1 million views, and reporters were outside Wilson's Fine Goods demanding a statement. The mayor released a short comment confirming the incident and praising Malik's work ethic. But that only poured more fuel on the fire. Janet was trending online with hashtags calling for her resignation from the local business council. By the third day, Malik couldn't even walk down the block without people recognizing him. Some clapped him on the back, others muttered things under their breath that made his stomach turn. And then, one afternoon, as he was heading to the community center, a black SUV pulled up beside him. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a man in a dark suit. He didn't recognize Mr. Johnson. The man said calmly, I think we need to talk. Malik stopped mid-step, his instincts screaming at him. The man's tone was polite, but his eyes were cold. Who are you? Malik asked. The man smiled faintly. Someone who can make this video disappear and all your problems with it. But we need something in return. Malik's grip on his backpack tightened. What kind of something? The man leaned forward, his voice dropping low. Let's just say you might have information that certain people don't want to share. Malik's heartbeat thundered in his ears. What if I say no? The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. And you and your mother might find yourselves with problems far bigger than a viral video. The SUV door opened, as if expecting Malik to get his mind raced. Should he step inside and hear this man out, or walk away and risk whatever was coming? But before he could decide, a shadow fell over the SUV, and someone slammed the door shut from behind. Malik spun around and froze. It was Malik's breath caught as he stared at the man who had just slammed the SUV door shut. It was Mayor Harris's face, tight, with an expression Malik had never seen before. The driver of the SUV looked startled for half a second before regaining that same blank professional look. Mr. Mayor, the suited man said, voice suddenly respectful. What a surprise. Harris didn't waste a second. What's going on here? Malik was about to answer, but Harris turned his attention fully to the man in the car. His voice was calm, but dangerous. I know who you work for. Tell them I'm watching. The man in the suit gave a thin smile. This isn't about you, Mayor Harris. It's about keeping certain situations from spiraling. Harris leaned in closer, and for a moment his voice dropped to a whisper that even Malik could barely hear. I think you should drive away before you find out how far I'm willing to go protect this kid. The SUV's engine revved, and the man gave Malik one last look before the tinted window slid back up. The vehicle pulled away slowly, blending into the afternoon traffic. Malik felt his legs tremble slightly. Mayor Harris looked at him long and hard. Malik, you need to tell me exactly what happened in that store. And after Malik explained, Harris let out a sigh. You stepped into something bigger than you realized, son, bigger than both of us. Malik didn't like the sound of that. He tried to brush it off as an overreaction, but when Harris said bigger than both of us, his voice carried the weight of someone who had been in dangerous waters before. Harris asked him to walk with him, and they made their way down the block toward City Hall. I can't protect you if you don't tell me everything, Harris said. And Malik admitted the truth about the video, the threats, the strange man's offer to make it all disappear. Harris listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening. It's certain parts you have to understand. He finally said, the people who don't want the story out are not Just angry store owners are connected to. Money power, and they don't care who they hurt to keep that power. Malik's stomach twisted. This is just about a racist store owner. Right, Harris shook his head. It started there. But now it's about controlling the narrative. They don't want the image of Mayor defending a young black man going viral in a way they can't control. By the time they reach the steps of City Hall, Malik noticed a black sedan parked across the street. It wasn't the same SUV from earlier, but something about the way it idled made his skin crawl. Harris noticed it too, his pace slowing before guiding Malik inside. Once they were in his office, Harris locked the door and pulled out a file from his desk. It was thick, filled with photos and typed reports, each one showing people Malik had never seen before. But Harris pointed at one face in particular. This is Martin Kane. He runs a real estate development company, but that's just the surface underneath. He launders money for half the crooked politicians in the state. And I'm guessing the man in the SUV works for him. Malik stared at the picture. The man looked ordinary, but there was something about his cold eyes that reminded him of the SUV. Encounter. Harris tapped the folder. I've been trying to take him down for years. And now you're in his crosshairs. Malik felt his throat dry. Why me? Harris leaned back. Because you embarrass people who think they can't be embarrassed. And worse, you did it with me standing there. So now they're worried what else you might do. Malik didn't have an answer to that. Harris rubbed his temples. Listen, I can keep the media heat on this. So they can't touch you in public, but they'll try to come at you in other ways. Your job, your mom's job, your safety. They'll chip away at everything until you either back down or make a mistake. Harris paused and added, that's why I'm going to ask you something. And you have to think very carefully before answering. Malik swallowed hard when Harris opened his desk drawer and pulled out a small voice. Recorder, I want you to wear this next time someone from Kane's circle approaches you. We need evidence, real evidence that ties them to intimidation or bribery. Malik stared at the recorder. It felt heavier. Then it looked where they find out. Harris's voice was steady. Then you call me right away. But the risk is worth it if it means ending this for good. Malik hesitated, but finally nodded and took the recorder. Harris's eyes softened. Slightly. Good. I'll have someone keep an eye on you, but be ready for them to test you first. They want to see if you scare easily. Harris walked Malik to the side exit, and they parted ways. Malik tried to act normal on the bus ride home, but every time someone glanced at him, he wondered if they were connected to Kane. That night, he hid the recorder in his backpack and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Sleep came in short, restless bursts. The next morning, he decided to go to the community center anyway, hoping to keep his routine as normal as possible. But when he arrived, the center's director, Mrs. Rodriguez, was waiting for him at the front desk. Her smile was warm, but her eyes looked worried. Malik, can we talk in my office? He followed her inside. She closed the door and lowered her voice. Malik, I just got a call from a man offering a donation to the center on one condition. We stop giving you volunteer hours. Malik's chest tightened. Did he say his name? She shook her head, but described him, and it matched the SUV man perfectly. Malik realized this was a day. We're testing him. Mrs. Rodriguez looked torn. I told him no, but I need to know if you're in some kind of trouble before I stick my neck out further. Malik's pulse raced. He thought about Harris's warning about gathering evidence. This was a perfect chance, but also the perfect trap. He decided to take a risk. Mrs. Rodriguez, can you call him back and put it on speaker? She frowned while Malik forced a casual tone. I just want to hear exactly what he said. She studied him for a moment, then slowly nodded. Pulling out her phone, she dialed a number and put it on the desk between them. It rang twice before the man's voice came through, smooth and calm. Mrs. Rodriguez, good to hear from you again. I hope you reconsidered our offer. She said, I'd like to hear the details again from my board's records. The man chuckled. Of course, like I said, $50,000 to the center. If you quietly end Mr. Johnson's volunteer work, then we believe it's in everyone's best interest. Malik's heart pounded. The recorder was on capturing every word. Mrs. Rodriguez asked why and what's the problem. The man's tone cooled. Let's just say he's involved in a situation we'd rather not see escalate. He's young. Maybe he'll thank us later. Mrs. Rodriguez kept him talking, asking about what funds would come from. But before the man could answer fully, there was a sudden loud crash in the hallway outside the office, the sound of hurried footsteps, and then the office door burst open. The door slammed open so hard it ricocheted off the wall, and a tall man in a dark hoodie stepped inside. His face shadowed the smell of cigarette smoke and cold air. Following him, Mrs. Rodriguez gasped. Malik's hand instinctively went to his backpack, where the recorder was still running. The man's eyes swept the room in a quick predatory scan before locking on Malik. So you're the kid? His voice was low, rough like gravel. Malik didn't answer. Every muscle in his body screaming to stay calm. Mrs. Rodriguez stood from her chair. This is a private office. You can't just. The man raised a hand, cutting her off with a slow, deliberate motion. "I won't be long," he said, eyes never leaving Malik's. "Let's take a walk." Malik knew better than to agree. But before he'd speak, the man took a slow step. "Closer, you want this to get ugly in front of her." The threat wasn't loud, but it landed like a stone in Malik's stomach. Mrs. Rodriguez's voice trembled. "You can't threaten a child here. We have cameras." The man smirked. "That's cute, cameras." Malik finally spoke, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. "I'm not going anywhere with you." Harris's warning echoed in his mind. "They'll test you first." The man tilted his head, a faint smile curling on his lips. "You think the mayor can keep you safe?" He leaned closer, his breath hot. "And sour, you don't know who you're dealing with." Kid Malik kept his eyes locked on him. "If you're that powerful, why are you here personally?" The smile faded, replaced with something colder. The man turned his head slightly as if listening for something, then reached into his hoodie pocket. Malik tensed. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out a folded piece of paper. He tossed it onto Mrs. Rodriguez's desk. It slid toward Malik, stopping just short of the recorder. Picking up, Malik hesitated, then slowly unfolded it. It was a printed photo of his mother leaving work. The timestamp was from the day before Malik's blood went cold. The man's voice softened almost to a whisper. "You keep pushing this, and she's the one who'll pay." Malik's hands curled into fists, but before he could answer, footsteps echoed from the hall, heavy and fast. The man's head snapped toward the door again, and in the next heartbeat, he bolted past him out into the hallway. Mrs. Rodriguez ran to the doorway, shouting for someone to stop him, but by the time Malik stepped into the hall, he was gone. The outer door, swinging open to cold street beyond, Malik could barely focus, his thoughts racing around his mom, the threat, the photo, the fact that the recorder had captured all of it. Mrs. Rodriguez turned him, her face pale. "Malik, you have to tell the police." Malik shook his head. "No, this is bigger than the police." She looked at him confused, but he didn't explain. Instead, he grabbed his backpack and hurried out, heading straight toward City Hall. Harris was in a meeting when Malik arrived, but the receptionist must have seen the look on his face because she called him out immediately. Harris listened without interrupting as Malik replayed the audio from the recorder. When it reached the part about his mom, Harris's jaw clenched. "We'll get her somewhere safe tonight, Malik. But understand that they're moving this fast. They're scared, which means we have an opening." Malik's voice was low. "How is that an opening?" Harris leaned forward. "Because fear makes people sloppy. They make calls they shouldn't. They move money where they think no one's looking. I can use." He told Malik to go home, pack a small bag, and meet him at a safe location. An address scribbled on a yellow sticky note. Malik followed instructions, heading home as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long orange shadows across the street. But when he reached his block, he froze. There was a black sedan parked 2 houses down from his building, its windows tinted just like the SUV from before. His first instinct was to keep walking, but then the front passenger window slid down slowly. The same man from the SUV leaned out, his smile calm, almost friendly. "Evening, Malik." Malik didn't respond. Harris's sticky note felt like it was burning in his pocket. The man gestured toward the sedan. "We can end this right now, kid. No more visits, no more pictures. Your mom stays safe." Malik's voice was sharp. "What's the catch?" The man's smile widened. "You disappear for a while. Don't talk to mayor. Don't talk to press. When you come back, this is all forgotten." Malik shook his head. "I'm not playing your game." The man's tone shifted, losing its friendliness. "Think carefully, Malik. This is the last time I'm asking." Malik felt the weight of the recorder in his pocket again, but before he could decide whether to bait the man into saying more, a loud honk blared from behind the city. Bus pulled up to the curb, breaking the moment. Malik took the distraction and moved quickly past the sedan toward his building, the man's eyes following him all the way inside. Upstairs, Malik packed a bag, his hands shaking only slightly. Now, he called his mom, told her Harris was arranging a place for them to stay. She didn't ask questions, just told him to be careful. 10 minutes later, Malik was out the door again, heading to the address Harris had given him. The safe house was an old brick townhouse on a quiet side street. Harris was already there, standing on the porch when man Malik didn't recognize. The stranger was tall, thin, with a sharp face and piercing eyes. Harris introduced him as Detective Ray Carter, someone he trusted. Carter shook Malik's hand, firm and brief, then motioned them inside. Once the door was shut, Carter got right to the point. "I've been looking into Kane for a long time. I've got wiretap clearance, and now, thanks to you, kid, I've got leverage that might get me into his inner circle." Malik explained what happened at the community center, and Carter listened carefully. "That's good audio, clean, direct," he said. "But we need more, something that ties Kane himself to the threats." Harris added, "That means, Malik, you're going to have to get close enough for one of his top people to talk in front of you." Carter nodded. "And I think I know how to make that happen." He pulled out a thin folder and slid it across the table. Inside was a printed flyer for a charity gala happening in 2 nights. Kane's name was listed as a sponsor. Carter Looked at Malik. You're going to that gala. Malik blinked. I'm 16. Harris leaned back. That's where I come in. You'll be my guest. No one will question it, Carter added. And if we're lucky, Kane will approach you himself. Malik felt a knot form in his stomach, but he nodded, agreeing to the plan. Harris clapped him on the shoulder. Good. We move fast. The longer we wait, the more they'll press you. Malik left the safe house that night with a strange mix of fear and determination in his chest. But as he turned the corner onto the main road, his phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. It reads, "You won't make it to Friday, kid." Malik stared at the text on his screen, his thumb hovering over the reply button. His mind racing. The street around him suddenly felt quieter, colder. Every car passing looked suspicious. Every shadow stretched too long. Harris's words echoed in his head. Fear makes him sloppy. But Malik couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't sloppiness. This was a promise. He slipped his phone back into his pocket without replying and kept walking, forcing himself not to look over his shoulder, even though every instinct screamed to run. When he reached his mom's temporary apartment, the blinds were already drawn, the smell of her cooking filling the air. She looked up from the kitchen. As soon as he stepped inside, "You all right, baby?" Malik forced a smile. "You're just tired." He didn't tell her about the text. No point worrying her more than she already was. Harris had made sure the building had security cameras and a doorman, but Malik still triple locked the door before sitting down to eat. His phone buzzed again. Another unknown number this time. It was a photo, not his mom nodded him, but of Harris standing outside City Hall, taken from across the street. Malik's fork froze halfway to his mouth. He excused himself, went into the bedroom, and called Harris. Immediately, Harris picked up on the second ring. "What's wrong?" Malik told him about the text and the photo. There was a pause on the line. Harris's voice was calm, but low. "They're trying to get in your head. Don't give them that power. I've got my people watching me, but it also means they're getting desperate." Malik asked what to do next. Harris told him to stay put for the night, but to be ready to move early in the morning. "We're getting you set up for that gala the rest of the night." Malik barely slept. Every sound from the hallway making him sit up in bed, the hum of the fridge sounding like a whisper, until morning finally came. Gray and cold. Harris arrived just after sunrise with a garment bag over his shoulder. Inside was a crisp black suit shirt and tie. Malik had never worn anything like it before. Harris grinned, seeing the way Malik eyed it. "You're about to make an entrance." The day passed in a blur of fitting a haircut. Harris walking him through every step of the plan. When the night of the gala finally came, the city was lit up gold from the street lamps, and the towering hotel where the event was held gleamed like a jewel. Harris and Malik stepped out of the car onto a carpeted entrance lined with cameras. Malik's heart pounded as flashes went off, though none were for him. Inside the ballroom was a sea of suits and glittering dresses, the air heavy with perfume and the faint clink of champagne glasses. Harris leaned down, whispering, "Keep your eyes open for Kane. He'll make a point of being seen, but don't approach him. Let him come to you." They moved through the crowd. Harris stopping to greet people, shaking hands, introducing Malik. As in turn, some nodded politely, others didn't even look twice, but Malik felt the eyes on him from somewhere near the back corner, and when he turned, he saw him, Kane, standing tall in a tailored navy suit, his silver hair catching the light, his expression unreadable. He was surrounded by two men in dark suits, both scanning the room constantly. Kane didn't move toward Malik at first. Instead, he kept talking to people around him, but Malik noticed something subtle. His gaze kept drifting back, like he was measuring him, sizing him up. Then the moment Kane excused himself from his circle and began walking their way. Harris straightened his posture, his jaw tightening. Kane's smile was practiced as he reached him. "Harris, good to see you." Kane's eyes shifted to Malik. "And who is this?" Harris's voice was even. "This is Malik, bright kid, helps me with community outreach." Kane extended his hand. Malik shook at Kane's grip, was firm, his eyes sharp. "Nice to meet you, Malik. I've heard your name around town." Malik kept his face neutral. "Good things, I hope." Kane chuckled. "Low, that depends who you ask." He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "I like people who mind their own business." Malik met his gaze, unflinching. "I like people who do the right thing." Kane's smile didn't falter, but his eyes did that half-second flicker Malik had seen before when someone's mask slips. He straightened. "Well, enjoy the evening, Harris." "Malik, I'm sure we'll talk again soon." Kane walked away, but not before giving one of his men a small nod, barely noticeable. Harris leaned down, whispering, "That nod was for you. Stay close to me." The rest of the evening passed in a blur of music and conversation until Harris said they needed to leave now. They slipped out a side entrance into the cold night, heading toward the car. But before they could reach it, a black SUV rolled slowly up to the curb, the back window sliding down to reveal the man from before, the one who'd cornered Malik in the community center. He smiled wide, as if they were old friends. "Evening." Malik. Harris stepped forward, putting himself slightly between them. The man Ignored him, eyes fixed on Malik. "You clean up nice, kid, enjoy the party." Harris took Malik's arm, guiding him toward their car. But the SUV didn't pull away. Instead, it matched their pace, rolling down the street until they reached a red light. The man leaned out again. "Just remember, Friday's not over yet." Harris turned to face him, his voice sharp. "Leave the kid alone." The man grinned wider. "Can't do that, boss." "Want to see him?" Harris tense. "Who's your boss?" The man didn't answer. The light turned green and the SUV sped off, disappearing into night. Harris drove Malik straight back to the safe house. But when they got inside, Carter was already there, pacing a phone in his hand. He looked up the moment they entered. "I just intercepted something you both need to hear." He put the phone on speaker. A recording crackled to life, a voice Malik didn't recognize, saying he's in the net Friday nights to drop. Harris's eyes met Carter's. "You think that's Kane?" Carter shook his head slowly. "That's not Kane, that's someone above him." Malik's stomach dropped. "Above Kane?" Harris asked quietly. Carter nodded. "And they want Malik alive until tomorrow night. That means whatever's planned is going down in less than 24 hours. Malik's voice was low. "So what happens tomorrow?" Carter's gaze was heavy. "That's what we have to figure out before they make their move. Because if we don't, you're not coming back." The night felt heavier than usual, the walls of the safe house pressing in like they knew something Malik didn't. Harris paced by the window, peeking through the blinds. Every few minutes, Carter was hunched over his laptop headphones, scrolling through lines of code, his jaw tight. Malik sat on the edge of the couch, his hands clasped together, staring at the carpet, replaying the voice from the recording in his head, a voice that didn't belong to Kane but to someone. Kane clearly answered to Harris. Finally turned from the window and spoke. "We can't just sit here waiting for them to come to us. We need to know who this is." Carter didn't look up. "I'm working on it. But they're good, like military grade, encrypted good." Malik asked quietly, "What happens if we don't find out?" Harris didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed his coat and motioned for Malik to do the same. Carter shot him a glance. "Where are you going?" Harris didn't slow down. "To the docks." Malik frowned. "The docks?" Harris nodded. That voice mentioned Friday night's drop. "Only place in the city that still runs big unregistered shipments is Pier 19. Carter finally looked up. "That's dangerous." Harris smirked under his breath. Exactly. The drive to the docks was long and quiet. The hum of the tires against the wet pavement filling the space. Malik stared out the window at the passing warehouses and flickering streetlights until Harris pulled into a dark alley a block from the pier. He cut the engine and handed Malik a knit cap to pull low over his head. "Stay close. Don't talk to anyone. They don't know your face yet, but they know mine." The air by the dock smelled of salt, rust, and diesel. The sound of waves slapping against the hulls of massive cargo ships echoing in the distance. Harris led them along the shadowed edge of a warehouse until they found a spot overlooking Pier 19. Below, a small group of men in black jackets stood near a stack of shipping containers, one of them holding a clipboard. Another man emerged from between the containers, flanked by two others. This man's posture made Malik's chest tighten, straight back, confident. Every step measured, even from a distance. Harris tensed. "That's a." Malik glanced sideways. Who? Harris's eyes never left a man. "The one above." Came. Malik's breath caught. He didn't look like what Malik expected. No flashy suit, no visible weapon, just a calm, deliberate presence, and a faint scar along his jaw that caught the light as he turned to speak to the clipboard man. Harris pulled out his phone, snapping a few quiet photos, but then one of the guards shifted his stance, glancing up toward their position. Harris cursed under his breath. "They've clocked us." Move. They ducked back into the shadows, weaving between stacked crates as footsteps echoed behind them faster. Now Harris grabbed Malik's arm, pulling him around the corner. Just as two men rounded the far end of the alley, Harris shoved open the door in an abandoned warehouse, pushing Malik inside. The smell of oil and dust hit him as Harris slid the door closed and pressed his back against it, listening. The footsteps passed by. Harris exhaled. "We need to get back to Carter. But those photos are gold." They slipped out the back of the warehouse, winding their way through side streets until they reached the car. Harris drove fast, not speaking, until they pulled up outside the safe house. Carter was still at his laptop. But when Harris handed him the phone and Carter saw the photo, his eyes widened. "I know that man." Malik leaned forward. "Who is he?" Carter's voice was low and grim. "His name's Victor Drager. Used to run Black Ops overseas until he disappeared for years. Now I guess we know where he went." Harris frowned. "If Drager's here, he's not running small-time stuff. This drop tomorrow could be huge." Carter nodded. "And there's more." I dug deeper into Kane's accounts. They're all tied to a shell company. Guess who runs it?" Malik felt his pulse quicken. "Drager." Carter nodded. Harris sat down hard in the chair. "So Kane's just a puppet?" Carter turned the laptop toward them, showing a map with multiple red dots across the city. All these spots have had increased activity in the last week. Warehouses, clubs, even a church basement. "Drager's building something big." Malik swallowed. What do we do? Harris leaned forward. We make tomorrow too dangerous for them to go through with it. Carter raised an eyebrow how Malik said it. Before he could stop himself, what if we let them think their plan's working? Harris looked at him narrowing. His eyes go on. Malik's voice steadied. If they think I'm still just some scared kid caught up in something too big, they might get careless if they think I'm walking right into their trap. Maybe we can flip it. Harris and Carter exchanged a look, neither of them speaking for a moment. Carter finally said, "That's risky." Harris nodded. "But it might be the only play. We'll need eyes everywhere tomorrow." Malik's stomach twisted, but he forced himself to nod. Harris clapped a hand on his shoulder. "You sure about this?" Malik met his gaze. "I'm not running anymore." Harris smiled faintly. "That's what I needed to hear the rest of the night." Was a blur of planning. Carter printing out maps. Harris making calls to people Malik didn't know, assigning positions, arranging backup. Just in case. By the time the first light of dawn crept to the blinds, Malik's head felt heavy, but his focus was sharp. Harris handed him a burner phone. "You keep this on you at all times, no matter what happens." Malik slipped it into his pocket. Harris glanced at Carter, who gave a small nod. It's time. They piled into the car, driving toward the part of the city Malik had always been told to avoid. Rows of crumbling warehouses looming over narrow streets. Harris parked 2 blocks away from a building with boarded-up windows and a single rusted door. The street was quiet, too quiet. Harris checked his watch, then looked at Malik. "Remember, you're scared, but you're not stupid. They're going to test you." The door creaked open as they approached a man Malik recognized from the SUV. Stepped out, smiling wide. "Took you long enough." Harris stayed back, letting Malik walk ahead. Inside, the air was stale. The light dimmed the sound of dripping water. Somewhere in the distance, they led him down a narrow hallway into a larger room, where Kane stood, hands clasped behind his back. Drager was there too, standing in the shadows, watching Malik like a hawk. Kane's smile was cold. "Welcome, Malik. I've been waiting for this." The man from the SUV shut the door behind them. Drager finally stepped forward, his voice smooth yet chilling. "You got something we need?" Malik frowned. "I don't know what you mean." Drager tilted his head. "Oh, I think you do." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, dropping it onto the table. Malik's eyes went to it, then back to Drager. "What is it?" Drager smiled thinly. "That's your pardon tomorrow's drop. And if you don't follow it exactly, well, let's just say your friend Harris won't be making it home tonight." Malik's chest tightened, but he forced himself to keep his voice steady. "What makes you think I'll help?" Drager's smile didn't fade. "Because you already have." Malik's brow furrowed. "I haven't done anything." Drager leaned, his eyes like steel. "Oh, but yeah." He unfolded the paper, revealing a single grainy photo of Malik standing in the gala next to Harris, smiling as if he belonged. Drager tapped the photo. "That was all I needed. Convince the buyers you're legit. Now they're expecting you tomorrow." And here's the part one didn't tell Kane. Drager's eyes glinted as he leaned even closer. "You're not walking out of tomorrow alive." Malik didn't flinch when Drager said the words, but inside his stomach churned like ice. Water was running through his veins. Harris was somewhere out there, maybe already surrounded, and this man was telling him he wasn't meant to live past tomorrow. Kane smirked in the corner, clearly enjoying the tension. Drager straightened, slipping the paper back into jacket and turning toward the shadows. "Now you know what's at stake." Malik took a breath, slow, steadied away. Harris had taught him his mind. Race, this was the moment Harris had warned him about. "They'll test you, see how much you'll take before you break." Malik looked Drager dead in the eye. "Fine, I'll do it, but I want to know what's in the drop." Drager's lips twitched, just enough to show amusement. "Clever boy," he said softly, "but the less you know, the longer you'll breathe." Malik clenched his jaw. That wasn't good enough. He needed more intel. He needed something to tell Harris, Carter, and whoever else was risking their lives to take this man down. Drager motioned to Kane, showing the container. Kane nodded toward the door. Malik followed him down another corridor lined with crates until they stepped into a wide, dimly lit loading bay. A single shipping container sat in the middle, its steel doors bolted shut. Kane produced a key from his pocket, unlocking the padlock. The doors creaked open, and Malik felt his throat tighten. Inside were several large black duffel bags stacked neatly. Kane unzipped one, and Malik's eyes widened not at the stacks of cash, but at the matte black weapons lying under them. Silencer, scopes, military-grade. Drager's voice was calm, almost bored. "The buyers tomorrow are paying for a very specific set. You will walk and deliver the bags and walk out." Simple. Malik swallowed hard. "Simple," he repeated. Kane zipped the bag shut, locking the container again. Drager stepped closer until Malik could feel the man's breath on his face. "I don't need you to understand. I just need you to obey." Then he turned, walking away as if Malik no longer existed. Kane stayed behind, giving Malik a grin. "You cross him, you'll wish you never woke up this morning." Malik said nothing, letting Kane think his silence was fear, not calculation. They let him back out the same way, and when the cold night air hit his face, it was like breathing for the first time in hours. One of Drager's men drove him to a corner several blocks away and told him to walk. Harris's car was waiting 2 streets over. Malik slid into the passenger seat. Harris didn't even start the car, just talk. Malik told him everything: to drop the weapons, the buyers, the plan. Harris cursed. Under his breath, Carter's voice crackled over the Bluetooth. That's worse than we thought. If those guns move tomorrow, this city's going to bleed. Harris looked at Malik. You said you wanted to flip. It will flip it, Carter. How fast can we get eyes on Pier 19 tomorrow? Carter's fingers clacked over keys. You'll have the Malik lean forward. What about Drager? Harris's gaze hardened. If he's there, we take him. If he's not, we follow the shipment to whoever he trusts enough to hand it to. They drove back to the safe house. And the next 12 hours felt like both a blur and an eternity. Maps were laid out, radios tested, positions assigned. Harris kept Malik close, running him through exactly what to do, how to stall, how to signal for backup. Without tipping Drager off, Malik listened to every word, committing it to memory. Dawn broke cold and gray, the kind of morning where the air tasted like metal. Harris pulled up 2 blocks from the pier where unmarked vans were already being loaded with crates. Malik's hands tightened around the strap of his bag. Harris caught his "Are you good?" Malik nodded. Carter's voice came through the earpiece. All teams in position. Harris gave Malik a short nod. Go. Malik walked toward the pier, the crunch of gravel under his boots loud in his ears. Drager was already there, standing with Kane and a group of men in black jackets, their expressions flat, eyes scanning every shadow. Malik approached slowly, handing Kane the key. Kane unlocked the container and began loading the duffels into the back of a black SUV. Drager's eyes never left Malik, like he was reading every thought in his head. Malik played his part, keeping his face neutral, his movements slow but confident. Then something happened. Malik didn't expect. A second SUV rolled up, and a tall man in a tan trench coat stepped out, his hair slicked back, his accent thick Russian. He walked straight up to Drager, speaking in low tones. Drager's face shifted slightly, a sign Malik recognized from Harris's training. Drager wasn't happy. Kane kept glancing toward the newcomer, like he was worried. Harris's voice hissed in Malik's earpiece. Something's wrong. Who's the new player? Malik didn't answer out loud, but he knew he'd seen that man once before in a news story about a gun-running ring busted in another state. This was Mikhail Orlov, someone even Drager would think twice about crossing. Malik felt the air tighten around them. Drager clapped his hands, and 2 of his men closed in on Malik. Kane grinned. Guessed the plan's changing. Malik's pulse thundered. Carter's voice came fast. Need to get out now. But Malik knew if he bolted, they'd know something was off. Drager stepped closer, his voice low. Change of plans. Kid, you're coming with us. Malik forced a shaky laugh. Why? Drager's smile didn't reach his eyes. Because Orlov doesn't trust new faces. And if I'm going to sell him these guns, he's going to watch you carry them to his car yourself. Malik glanced at the SUV where 2 more men waited, their hands inside their jackets. Harris's voice in his ear was urgent. This is bad. Too many guns, too many eyes. Malik shifted the bag on his shoulder, feeling the weight of what was inside. Orlov was watching like a hawk. Drager's men were already moving the duffels one by one toward the second SUV. Malik's mind spun. He needed to buy time. Harris whispered, "Stall, I'm coming." And Malik took the next duffel and walked it slowly toward Orlov's vehicle, counting his steps, feeling every pair of eyes on him. He handed it off to one of Orlov's men, who gave him a look like he'd already decided what Malik's grave would look like. Drager called out, "Last one, kid. Make it quick." Malik grabbed the final bag, but as he turned, the foot caught on the edge of the pier, and he stumbled just enough for the zipper to split open. For a split second, everyone saw what was inside: guns, money, and something else, a small black device. Malik didn't recognize. Orlov's eyes narrowed. Drager's jaw tightened. Kane swore under his breath. Harris's voice was sharp. Malik moved now. Malik clutched the bag and straightened, but Drager stepped into his path, the cold barrel of the pistol pressing lightly against Malik's chest. His voice was soft, almost casual. "You want to tell me why there's something in this bag I didn't put there?" Malik froze, the cold steel against his chest sending a shiver straight through his spine. Drager's eyes were flat, calculating, searching Malik's face for even the smallest twitch of guilt. The pier seemed to go silent, even though waves slapped against the pylons and gulls cried overhead. Orlov's men tightened their grip on their weapons. Harris's voice crackled faint in Malik's ear. "Don't panic. I'm 20 seconds out." Malik forced himself to breathe slow, steady. He glanced at the black device wedged between the stacks of cash and the rifle barrels. He didn't know what it was, but the way Orlov's gaze sharpened told him it wasn't something harmless. Drager pulled the bag closer, peering inside. His expression didn't change, but his knuckles went white around the pistol. He turned his head slightly, speaking to Kane low enough that Malik barely caught it. "Check the rest." Kane unzipped another duffel, quickly scanning inside before shaking his head. "No, Device just guns and Cash Drager's jaw. Twitch, that means someone put this here without my say, so Orloff stepped forward, his accent cutting through the tension. Like a blade, perhaps you have a rat Drager, perhaps you have a problem. Drager's lips curled, but it was a smile. I don't like problems. Orloff Drager motioned to his men to close in on Malik. Harris's voice was firmer. Now 10 seconds, Malik. I'm coming in hot. Malik knew if Drager got him into one of those SUVs, he'd disappear before Harris could reach him. He needed to act. He shifted his stance slightly, like he was adjusting the weight of the bag, and then let it slip from his hands. The device clattered onto the wooden planks, rolling just enough for Orloff to see its blinking red light. Orloff's eyes went wide. Bomb. Kane yelled, and in that split-second chaos erupted. Orloff's men dug for cover. Drager's crew scattered. Kane lunged for bag, and Malik took off, sprinting toward the edge of the pier. Harris's unmarked sedan screeched into view, tires squealing. He flung the passenger door open, getting Malik dove inside. Harris slammed the gas, the car fishtailing as bullets ripped through the air. Carter's voice barked over the comm. What happened? Harris swerved around a corner breach. Orloff saw something he didn't like. Drager thinks Malik's dirty. Malik twisted in his seat, catching his breath. He saw something in that bag, Harris, something that scared both of them. A small device blinking red. Harris's eyes narrowed in the rear view. What kind of device? Malik shook his head. I don't know, but Orloff called Drager a rat to his face. That's leverage. Harris grunted. Your leverage. That might get you killed. They made it back to the safe house, but it no longer felt safe. Carter was already there, hunched over a laptop. He pulled up grainy drone footage of the pier freeze. Right there, Harris said, pointing. That's the moment Orloff saw the device. Carter zoomed in. Harris frowned. That's a signal beacon, military grade, sends location to whoever's holding the receiver. Malik's gut twisted. So someone was tracking that shipment. Harris nodded. And if it wasn't Drager or Orloff, then somebody higher up wants to know exactly where those guns are. Malik sat back. If Drager thinks I planted it, he's coming for me. Carter looked up from the screen. He's already looking for you. Kane's been asking questions all over the south side. Harris's jaw tightened. Then we stay ahead of him. Carter's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it, frowning. Harris, we have another problem. The beacon just went live again. Harris leaned over his shoulder. The signal's moving now north toward the industrial park. Malik's mind spun. Whoever planted that device is picking up the shipment. Harris grabbed his jacket. Let's move. They sped across the city streets, neon signs blurring past, until the industrial park's looming warehouses came into view. Carter's drone fed them live video, showing a black semi-truck idling at the far end of the lot. Two figures loaded the duffels into the trailer. Malik recognized one immediately. Kane, the other, was a man in a gray hoodie, his face hidden. Harris pulled the car into an alley. We go on foot. Carter, keep eyes on them. They crept along the shadows. Malik's pulse pounded. The wind carried the low murmur of Kane's voice as he argued with the hooded man. Then the hooded man glanced up toward the camera's line of sight, and for a split second the hood fell back. Malik's breath caught. He knew that face. It was one of Drager's lieutenants, the one who was supposed to be overseas running shipment. Harris's eyes narrowed. That's Dylan Reese. And if Reese is here, then Drager's not in control anymore. Malik's voice was low. That means Reese is running his own game. Harris nodded. Yeah, and that makes him twice as dangerous. Suddenly the truck's engine roared to life. Kane slammed the trailer doors shut. Reese climbed into the passenger seat. Harris cursed. They're moving. Malik pulled his hood up. I can get onto the trailer. Harris's eyes flashed. Are you insane? Malik shook his head. If they get those guns to whoever Reese is working for, the city's done. Just get me close. Harris's jaw tightened, but he knew Malik was right. They gunned the sedan forward, closing the gap. The trailer rumbled just ahead. Malik slid halfway out the window, gripping the metal edge of the car. Door wind whipped his face. Harris pulled him close enough. Malik leapt, grabbing the trailer side ladder and hauling himself up. He flattened against the steel as the city blurred past. The truck veered onto the highway. Picking up speed, Malik crawled along the narrow ledge toward the rear doors. Every movement was a gamble. The metal slick with condensation. He reached the latch, but found it locked from the inside. He glanced back toward Harris's car far behind. Now Carter's voice came through faintly. You're on your own, kid. Malik grit his teeth and pulled a small multi-tool from his pocket. Working it to lock, the truck swayed, throwing him off balance. But finally the latch gave. He slipped inside darkness. Swallowing him, the smell of oil and metal was thick. He felt his way toward the stacked duffels when a voice came from the shadows. You shouldn't be here. Malik froze. Kane stepped forward from between the stacks, a pistol in his hand, his smile cold. Thought you could play hero. Malik's heart pounded, but his eyes darted around a cramped space, looking for anything he could use. Kane cocked the gun. Harris's voice whispered in Malik's ear, you got seconds. Kane's finger tightened on the trigger, and Then from somewhere deep in the trailer came a muffled beeping sound. Kane's eyes flicked toward it, and his expression changed from smug to confused. Malik's blood ran cold. That wasn't the beacon from before. This was something else entirely. The beeping grew faster. Kane swore, spinning toward the sound. Malik took a step back, his mind racing. Was this another trap, or had someone planted something much worse? The beeping in the dark was relentless, sharp, and fast enough to make Malik's skin crawl. Kane's eyes darted through the stacks of duffels, his pistol lowering just slightly as confusion turned into panic. Malik edged sideways toward the opposite end of the trailer, keeping his eyes on Kane, waiting for the moment to strike. The smell of oil was thicker now, mixed with something acrid. Burnt plastic. Kane finally spotted it wedged between two crates. It wasn't a beacon this time. It was a small black box with a green screen that pulsed numbers downward: 042, 041, 040 AM timer. Malik's stomach dropped. It's a bomb, Kane swore and lunged for it, but stopped short like he wasn't sure where to touch it. His hesitation was all Malik needed. He rushed forward, shoulder checking Kane hard. The gun skittered across the trailer floor. Kane stumbled but caught himself, snarling, and tackled Malik. They slammed into metal wall so hard Malik saw stars. The timer was down to 30 seconds. Harris's voice was a low growl in Malik's earpiece. What's happening? Malik gasped. Bomb. 30 seconds. Harris cursed loud enough to make the comm crackle. I'm coming in. Kane's fist came fast. Malik blocked one, but caught the second square in the jaw. His knees wobbled, but adrenaline kept him moving. He slammed his elbow into Kane's ribs, broke free, and lunged toward the device. Kane grabbed his ankle, yanking him down hard. The metal floor rattled as the truck hit a bump. The timer was at 18 seconds. Malik kicked Kane off and crawled for the bomb. His hands hovered over it. He didn't know if pulling the wrong wire would end him right there. Harris's voice was sharp. Malik, talk to me. 15 seconds. Malik swallowed hard. I'm guessing here. He yanked at the first panel, and a tangle of wires glared back at him. Blue, red, yellow, white. Carter's voice cut in fast. Blue. Then white. Harris shouted blue first. Malik's hand shook, but he obeyed. The timer froze at 09. The relief was instant but short-lived. The green screen flickered. Then a second counter appeared underneath it. This one, counting down from 20. Malik's blood ran cold. What the hell is this? Carter's voice was grim. That a failsafe. He just armed the secondary. Kane was back on his feet, and this time his face wasn't angry. It was terrified. He kicked the bomb away from Malik so hard it slammed into the opposite wall. Harris's voice roared, get out now. Malik scrambled for the rear doors of the truck, swerved violently. Kane lost his footing and crashed into the crates. Malik grabbed the latch and shoved the doors open. Wind roared in. The highway a blur beneath them. The sedan was close behind. Harris leaned out the window, jumped. Malik hesitated just long enough to see Kane clawing toward him. His face twisted in rage. Then he let the impact rattle his bones. But Harris yanked him in, and Carter dragged him across the seat. Harris floored it just as an earth-shaking blast ripped through the night. The shockwave punched him forward, glass rattling in the frames. Malik looked back. The trailer was a fireball spinning into the median. Harris didn't slow. Who set that? Harris demanded. Carter's fingers flew over the keyboard. Whoever it is, they wanted both Kane and that shipment gone. Malik's voice was tight. And they almost got me too. Harris gripped the wheel, jaw clenched. We're running out of time. This isn't just Drager and Orloff anymore. We're in the middle of something bigger. Carter glanced at his screen. The signal from the first beacon to one at the pier. It's active again. Malik frowned. How that shipment's gone. Carter shook his head. Not the shipment, the other half of the deal. Drager had another location. Harris swore. Where Carter's voice was grim. City Hall basement storage. Malik's stomach turned. City Hall means the mayor. Harris's gaze darkened. Yeah, and if that's where the beacon is, it means someone wants the mayor taken out. Harris gunned the engine, cutting across lanes. Malik's pulse pounded in his ears. The idea that the mayor, the one person with enough pull to push back against Drager, could be a target sent a wave of urgency through him. Carter's voice, cut in security feed, just went dark in the basement. They're already there. Harris slammed the brakes near the side entrance to City Hall. Malik leapt out, running hard through the shadows. The back door was ajar. Inside, the air smelled like dust and concrete. The dim light barely reached the stairwell. Malik took the steps too. At a time, Carter's voice crackled in his ear. Multiple heat signatures, basement level. Armed. Malik rounded the last corner and froze. Two men in tactical black were planting another device, this one bigger, with twin timers counting down from 5 minutes. They didn't see him yet. Malik slipped behind a column. Hart hammering. His eyes scanned for anything that could give him an edge. He spotted a loose length of steel pipe on the ground. He gripped it tight. Harris's voice was low. I'm 2 minutes out, Malik. I can't wait that long. Malik whispered back. They'll be gone in 60 seconds. The men finished setting the Device 1 pulled out a phone and snapped a photo before tucking away. Then they both turned toward the stairwell. Malik's breath caught. This was his moment. He stepped out, swinging the pipe connected with the first man's shoulder, dropping him instantly. The second spun, raising his weapon. Malik tackled him hard. They crashed into a wall. The gun went off, deafening the tight space. The first man groaned, starting to rise. Malik kicked the weapon away, slammed the second man's head into the wall, and turned for the device. The timers were at 3:42. His hands moved instinctively to the panel. But this wasn't like the one in the truck. It had triple fail-safes. Harris's voice was urgent. Malik, don't touch it, we'll disarm. And I get there. Malik's jaw clenched. We don't have time. Carter's voice cut in sharp. Malik, there's something else to feed from City Hall lobby. Drager just walked in. Malik's blood went cold. Drager here? Carter's voice was tight. He's not alone. And you're not going to like who's with him. Malik looked up at the shadow moving down the stairwell. The light hit his face, just enough for Malik to see, and his grip on the pipe tightened. It wasn't Drager's lieutenant. It wasn't Orloff. It was someone he never expected, someone who wasn't supposed to be anywhere near this mess at all. And they were smiling right at him. Malik's grip on the pipe didn't loosen. As the figure stepped fully into the dim light, the smirk was almost casual. But the eyes told a different story. Cold. Calculating. It was Mayor Whitfield herself. Malik's mind scrambled. This was the woman who shook his hand last year, thanked him for his work in community outreach, promised she'd care about the little guy. And now she was here, walking down into a basement where a live bomb ticked under City Hall. Harris's voice crackled in Malik's earpiece. Malik, I'm 30 seconds out. Who's there? Malik didn't answer. He couldn't. The mayor's gaze swept over the two down men on the floor and landed on the device, ticking away like a death sentence. She tilted her head. You shouldn't be here. Detective Reed. Malik's voice was tight. I could say the same about you. Her lips curled slightly. You think you know what's going on. You think this is about Kane or Drager or even Orloff, but they're pawns in a bigger game, and you're in way over your head. The timer hit 3:05. Malik took a step closer. I'm not here for games. I'm here to stop this. Before anyone gets hurt. The mayor's eyes sharpened. Oh, someone's going to get hurt. That's inevitable. But who? That's still up for negotiation. She circled to the side of the device, her fingers brushing the panel with unsettling familiarity. Malik's suspicion hardened. You planted this, didn't you? The mayor chuckled softly. Don't be naive. Malik. Drager has his uses, but he's sloppy. Orloff's a thug. The city needs someone with vision, and sometimes vision requires pruning. She glanced at the timers, as if admiring a piece of art. Harris's voice came again. Malik, what's going on? The mayor's here. Malik muttered, barely moving his lips. And she knows the bomb. Harris swore loud enough to distort the calm. The mayor crouched by the device, tapped in a sequence. The numbers froze at 2:47 then. Without warning, they doubled to 5:34. Malik frowned. Why? Give yourself more time. The mayor stood slowly. Because I want you to hear something. She pulled a small black remote from her coat and pressed the speaker in the corner. Crackled to life, and Drager's voice filled the basement. Only he wasn't talking to her. He was talking to someone else, someone Malik recognized. Carter's voice. Carter? Malik's stomach flipped. Drager's words came clear. So you'll wipe the feeds, make sure the detective is busy, and I'll handle Whitfield. Carter's voice replied, calm, measured, yes. But when this is over, I want my cut. Malik's breath came short. His friend, his tech guy, working with Drager. The mayor's smile was thin. I'm not your enemy tonight. Malik, your enemy, is standing upstairs feeding Drager information in a room. Tilted for a moment, Harris's voice was a low growl in his ear. Malik, get that bomb. Disabled now. Carter's been playing us. The mayor stepped aside, motioning toward the device. If you want to stop this city from going up, I suggest you listen to me. Drager's upstairs waiting for you. Malik kept his eyes on her. Why, help me. The mayor's tone was almost bored. Because Drager forgotten his place. He's forgotten who actually runs this city. And you're the perfect blunt instrument. Malik didn't like being anyone's instrument, but the urgency of the ticking behind him made the choice for him. He knelt beside the device. Harris, I'm at the panel. What's the move? Harris was rapid. Blue, red, black in that order. Malik's fingers worked fast. The first wire came free. The second followed. His pulse roared in his ears. The third wire, black, was stiff, harder to grip. 218. Carter's voice cut in sharp in his ear. Malik, don't do it as a trap. Cut black. And the fail-safe goes off. The mayor's eyes locked on it. She didn't speak, just waited. Harris's voice barked. Ignore him, Malik. He's been compromised. Malik's hands hovered over black wire. Sweat ran down his back. He made his choice. He cut. The timers froze at 2:11. Harris's exhale filled the calm. Good work. But Malik's relief was short-lived because a slow clap echoed down the stairwell. Drager stepped into the basement, flanked by two men with rifles. The mayor didn't even flinch. Drager's grin was pure venom. You always were good at cleaning up messes. Reed, shame you're about to be one. Malik rose slowly, pipe still in hand. Drager's gaze Flick to the mayor, you've been busy. Whitfield, the mayor's smile was cool, and you've been careless. Drager's laugh was sharp, maybe. But tonight ends with me walking out of here with the only leverage worth having. He nodded toward Malik. Get him. Drager's men moved fast. Malik swung the pipe, catching the first in the ribs. The second raised his rifle, but a deafening gunshot cracked through the air. The man, Crumple Harris, stood in the doorway, pistol smoking. Carter was behind him, eyes darting. Nervously, Malik's fury was instant. You, Carter swallowed. I had no choice. Drager had my sister. Harris kept his gun trained on Drager. Save it for later. Drager back toward the stairs, grin. Never fading. You think this is over? I got copies. Everything you've seen tonight goes public. And when it does, the mayor's voice cut him off. And when it does, it'll lead straight back to you. She pulled a small flash drive from her pocket, tossed it to Harris. Drager smiled, faltered. What's it? She stepped closer. Insurance. Malik caught the flicker of uncertainty in Drager's eyes. That was when Harris moved. He shoved Drager hard against the wall, slapped cuffs on him. Drager snarled, "This isn't over." Reed. Malik stepped in close. So it's just beginning. As Harris dragged Drager up the stairs, Carter lingered behind. Malik's eyes were cold. You and me were not done. Carter nodded, shame in his face. The mayor adjusted her coat. If you're smart, you'll stay away from City Hall. For a while, Malik's jaw tightened. If you're smart, you'll stay out of my way. She smirked and walked out, heels echoing in the stairwell. The basement was suddenly too quiet. Malik turned toward the disarmed bomb, heart still racing. Harris's voice came from upstairs. Reed, we got a problem. Malik's stomach sank. What now? Harris's reply was grim. The flash drive. There's something on it, something bad. Malik started for the stairs. What kind of bad? Harris hesitated long enough to make Malik's skin crawl. It's footage. Read of someone you know very well. And if it's real, it changes everything. Malik stopped halfway up the stairs. His voice was low. Who? Harris's answer was a whisper barely audible over the comm. Your father. Let me tell y'all something right now. You think you've seen the full story. You think the tables have turned. You think justice is sitting pretty with its feet up. But life's got a way of showing you that the moment you relax, the real storm is about to hit. You see, Jamal stood there on that sidewalk outside Mr. Whitaker's store, the summer sun bouncing off the glass windows, the crowd still buzzing from what they had just witnessed inside. The mayor's words had flipped the whole situation upside down, and for once, people saw the truth for what it was. Whitaker was exposed. Jamal? He was no longer just that kid. He was a young man who stood his ground, kept his dignity, and didn't let someone's prejudice define him. But don't get it twisted, this victory wasn't clean. It wasn't wrapped in a bow. Because the way the world works, some people don't take embarrassment well. And Whitaker, oh, he was the type to make sure everybody paid for making him look small. He stood there in the doorway, pretending to be busy with the register, but his eyes, those cold, narrow eyes, were locked on Jamal like he was memorizing every detail for later. The crowd slowly began to disperse, the energy fading as folks went back to their lives. But the whispers didn't stop. Everyone in that little town was going to be talking about what happened for weeks. Jamal's friends slapped him on the back. Some strangers even offered him free snacks from the deli across the street. But he didn't smile much, because deep down he knew this wasn't over. He felt it in his chest. That same knot he'd had the day Whitaker first told him to get out. And right there, my friends, is where the real way a fight comes in. It's not about one confrontation. It's about all the little ways they try to break you afterwards. The mayor, still standing nearby, put a hand on Jamal's shoulder. You did good today, he said, his voice low enough for only Jamal to hear. But you need to watch yourself. Men like him don't forget. They don't forgive. Jamal nodded, not because he agreed, but because he already knew it was true. They shook hands, and the mayor walked off toward his car, followed by reporters still trying to squeeze one more quote out of him. Jamal started toward home, his backpack slung low. When he heard it, Whitaker's voice, quiet but sharp. Enjoy your little moment. Boy, it's the last one you're going to get. And just like that, Jamal knew the man had already started plotting. Now, you might think this is where I tell you the bad guy got what was coming, and we all live happily ever after. But no, I'm not here to feed you fairy tales. I'm here to tell you how it really goes. Because over the next week, little things started happening. Jamal's mother got a letter in the mail saying her hours at the diner had been cut. His older brother got pulled over twice in 3 days, no ticket, just routine checks. And the grocery store where his aunt worked, They suddenly didn't need her anymore. That's the thing about power. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, sneaky, creeping into every corner of your life until you can't tell where the leak started. Jamal tried to shrug it off at first, telling himself it was just coincidence. But the pattern was too clear. This wasn't random. This was revenge. And let me tell you, when you're young and the world decides you need to be punished for standing up for yourself, it's a lonely place to be. But here's the part one need you all to hear. The part that matters, the moral. Listen close. People will underestimate you because of the color of your skin, your age, your background, or just because you don't fit into the little box they built in their minds. They'll try to make you small. And when you fight back, they might hit harder in ways you can't even see coming. But that's the test. The real victory ain't just winning the first round. It's being strong enough to keep standing for the rounds after. Because the truth is, the more they push you down, the more dangerous you become when you decide to rise anyway. Jamal learned that the hard way. And I'm telling you now, you might have your own Whitaker in your life. Don't let them write your ending. You hold that pen. You write it yourself. But as for Jamal, his fight wasn't over. In fact, it was just getting started. Because one Thursday afternoon, a letter showed up at his front door with no return address. He opened it, and inside was a single photograph, a grainy image of him walking home from school. On the back, written in jagged black ink, were the words, "Next time, you won't see me coming." And right there, right in that moment, Jamal realized the game had changed. This wasn't about a store anymore. This was about survival. And if Whitaker thought he was just going to scare him into silence, well, he didn't know who he was dealing with.